Today marks the end of an era. Jose Altuve has to feel like this right now because with a week left until spring training, Alex Bregman has officially signed with a brand new team. He's not an Astro anymore, which is still so weird to say out loud. So we'll talk about that signing because it's a big boy signing. The Red Sox are shelling out a ton of money. The Padres, they're making moves. The Marlins, they finally made a move as well. And then again, we'll talk about the end of an era in Houston. If you want to stay up to date on the game of baseball, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget that recap is brought to you by SeatGeek and Underdog Fantasy. Use code Fuzzy. Alex Bregman got how much? $120 million for how many years? Before we talk about Bregman, I got to get into the fact that the Padres have finally woken up. They just gave Nick Pivetta one of the strangest contracts I've ever seen, and it makes sense because he's one of the strangest pitchers I've ever seen. He doesn't make any sense. So in the last week, the Padres have added Nick Pivetta, Jason Hayward, and Connor Joe. I'm not saying those guys are going to be world changers, but the fact that there is an official control person, an official person kind of taking the helm of the Padres, it seems like stability has been found, and the Padres, they could have a really good end of the offseason. Like I mentioned, though, this contract and Nick Pivetta are both kind of anomalies, and I'll explain the money side in just a second because, again, Nick is one of the weirdest starting pitchers I've ever seen. He has a very impressive 722 strikeouts over his last 650-ish innings. That's insane for a starting pitcher. Now, last year for Boston, he had double-digit strikeouts, 10-plus strikeouts 5 times. At the same time, with that nasty stuff, he only allowed 2.2 walks per night, so he has pretty good command as well. So when you strike out a lot of guys and you don't walk a ton, you clearly put up a sub-3 ERA or at the very highest a 3.1, 3.2 ERA, right? Well, that did not happen. Nick had a 4.14 ERA, which is better than his career ERA of 4.76. So he's a strikeout machine who doesn't walk a ton, but he's bad at the one job you're supposed to be good at as a starting pitcher, and that's limiting runs. That's weird, right? Well, I guess it's not really weird when you check out his biggest bugaboo. 10 times over the course of 2024, he had a start where he allowed multiple home runs, and the majority of them were against righties. Right-handed hitters hit 271 with a 520 slugging against Pivetta. Lefties only hit 188, so maybe without the monster, right-handed hitters are not going to get as lucky in Petco Park. Maybe that's going to help out Pivetta a lot. Let's talk about the money now, because I did say that the contract and the money side of things was also pretty weird. This is a backloaded contract, so Nick Pivetta is getting $55 million over the next 4 years, but he's only making $1 million in 2025. So it's not just the Dodgers who are finding ways to save money in 2025 and kind of push off some money, because this isn't necessarily a deferral per se, because he's still making a lot of money in 2026, 2027, and 2028. It's like $19 million, 15, and then 18. I don't exactly know how the math works out, but it's not like he's deferring it until 2040. Alex Bregman is deferring money, by the way. Can the Padres keep up this momentum? Do you think that Pivetta, Hayward, and Connor Joe are difference makers? Or do you think that the Diamondbacks and Dodgers have gotten way too good that the Padres, they're kind of a third place team now in their own division? One more starting pitching signing. I'll talk about this for 15 seconds. Cal Quantrill is going to the Marlins, and I only really bring this up because I can't believe this. The Marlins have now spent more than the playoff Milwaukee Brewers and the St. Louis Cardinals. The St. Louis Cardinals, a cornerstone franchise in Major League Baseball. I cannot believe that the Marlins have outspent those teams, like literal playoff contending teams. Tell me again that the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Real quick though on Cal, he defied modern physics. He somehow was a worse pitcher on the road last year, which is crazy because he was a literal Colorado Rocky. How was he worse on the road? Now, he did have a combined 3.1 ERA from 2020 to 2022. Some of that was with the Padres. Then he got shipped to the Guardians where, I mean, he was pretty decent actually. He was an innings eater, but the production has dropped off big time. He has a 5.1 ERA over his last 250-ish innings, but again, he's an innings eater. He's going to be a back of the rotation kind of guy, but I only wanted to bring it up because of the money side of things. It's crazy. That's not as crazy as Alex Bregman getting $120 million for the next 3 years. 3 years, 120 from the Boston Red Sox. At least that's what it looks like on paper. That's not what it is, though. Saying that Bregman got a 3-year, $120 million deal gets a lot more clicks than admitting that a lot of it is being deferred and he has a ton of opt-outs. $40 million of this $120 million is being deferred, and again, there's a lot of opt-outs, so we'll we'll talk about that later on. By the way, I do want to make it known that the Tigers actually offered the most money. They offered $171.5 million for 6 years. He rejected that. He just did not want to go to Detroit, it seems like, because maybe he doesn't want to play in that ballpark. The Cubs offered 4 years, $120 million, which is not even close to the Red Sox. And then Houston, they offered 6 years, $157 million. So he just wants those opt-outs, it seems like. Why does he want the opt-outs? It's pretty easy. Bregman, he's going to be playing second base, and Bregman, he rakes at Fenway. In 21 career games at Fenway, over 80 at-bats, Bregman is hitting a whopping .375 with 9 doubles, 7 home runs, a near 500 on-base percentage, a 1.2 something OPS. So the Red Sox, they're going to be able to go Jarren Duran, Alex Bregman, Rafael Devers as protection for Bregman, Casas, Trevor Story, Masataka Yoshida, Connor Wong, Wilyer Abreu, Rafaela. I mean, this is one of the best lineups in baseball. Speaking of being one of the best in baseball, we know that Alex Bregman has one of the best eyes and plate approaches in baseball. He doesn't chase, he doesn't whiff, but for some reason in 2024, that did not result in him getting on base via the walk. The walks were way down last year. And also, we have to remember that Bregman, a lot of people consider him to be a juiced ball merchant. He had 31 home runs with 51 doubles in 2018, 41 home runs in 2019. He has not gotten close since. So with the decreased walks and he's kind of a juice ball merchant, why would he get 3 years, $120 million, which is not really $120 million with deferrals? The present day value is 3 years, $90 million. If Bregman goes back to taking walks and he performs even at 80% of how he's done so far in Fenway Park, we're talking about a second baseman who could go off for 35 to 40 home runs with great defense. That market is as small as it gets. It really seems like Bregman is now pivoting to a Marcus Semien type contract. Don't forget that Marcus Semien got 7 years, $175 million. So because Bregman rakes in Fenway Park, he has a ton of opt-outs. Do not be surprised at all if Bregman pops off this year and then opts out, or he gets an extension. It's kind of the same thing how it worked for Blake Snell with the Giants and Matt Chapman. Those guys, they really were rewarded for taking short-term contracts. So in terms of the Boston Red Sox offseason, you have Garrett Crochet and Alex Bregman as the biggest adds. That's already insane. Then you have to factor in Walker Buehler, Aroldis Chapman, Patrick Sandoval. He might come back later in 2025. Maybe Andrew Bailey can fix him. Lucas Giolito is going to be back. Liam Hendricks is going to be back as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to give a grade myself. I'm going to leave it up to my editor. He's a die-hard Boston Red Sox fan, Pesky Talk. He's going to give the grade right now. So this is from a Boston diehard. And by the way, my guy Pesky, he's an absolute workhorse. He has a channel of his own. He just uploaded a full off-season grades video. So once you're done with this one, if you're still bored, go check that out. I'll put it in the comments down below. Super quick before we talk about the end of an era in Houston, I want to talk about one kind of wild card player that I expect the Red Sox to trade unless they make him an outfielder. David Hamilton. If I'm an MLB GM, I'm on the phone yesterday talking about this guy because he's not only a very good defensive second baseman, he's an insane athlete with top 6% speed. He's got some pretty solid pop in that bat. His final 245 at-bats, he had 7 home runs and 29 stolen bases, which is really good production on offense considering his 3 outs above average on defense. Yes, he strikes out a lot. Yes, he's not very good against lefties, but when you have a Vaughn Grissom, Marcelo Mayer, you have Christian Campbell, there's just no room for a David Hamilton. Trade him for a pen piece. I would love David Hamilton to be a Cleveland Guardian. There are so many teams that could use a David Hamilton type player, and they have enough pitching depth to get him. I feel like this is just a match made in heaven for the Mariners. That could work. And with that, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, Kyle Tucker, Justin Verlander, they're all gone. Me personally, Isaac Paredes is going to be a fantastic replacement for Bregman. Him with those Crawford boxes, again, it's going to be cinema. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you make of this signing? The fact that Bregman turned down a lot of money from the Tigers. He said, I'm going to go to Boston, have a bunch of opt-outs. And again, the end of an era in Houston. Have they earned your forgiveness and respect after winning that World Series a few years ago after what happened in 2017? Will Bregman have a redemption arc now that he's not on the Astros? Let me know.